Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Lindsey series. This is the biggest district in Lincolnshire, containing 188 civil parishes. Without further ado, here's today's offering. Welcome back to a rainy East Lindsey, everybody. Now, East Lindsey, I say East Lindsey, a lot of people think this place is in West Lindsey because it's right on the East-West Lindsey border. And I know a lot of you have been waiting for this one. This is a lovely place. I've been here loads of times in my life. I know my way around this one like the back of my hand, really. Welcome to Wragby. The East Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop located at 20 Ropery Road, Gainsborough, or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to a brand new area of East Lindsey. We've moved away from Grimsby now, and this is Wragby, right on the border between East Lindsey and West Lindsey. It's one of the most populous places in the district and sits on the A158, the main road between Lincoln and Skegness. Now, there is some debate over whether or not Wragby is a village or a town. Officially, it's a village because it's governed by Wragby Parish Council, which does not have town status. However, that can be argued against because there's a town hall, not a village hall. Adding to the confusion, in the 1600s, Wragby was classed as a market town and a staging centre, thanks to a royal charter. Over time, Wragby has evolved from being a stopping point en route to the coast into a burgeoning settlement in its own right. It has a plethora of amenities, including 3 pubs, a chippy, a café, and a supermarket. The population has expanded too through the building of 3 new housing estates, mainly to the west of the central marketplace. Industry-wise, this is a place that was, and still is in its outer reaches, all about the corn trade. On Bardney Road there's a windmill, which once ground it, and its former station was once used to transport it. Culturally, the Brady Touring Company of Actors once performed here, and the late 1970s band The Sinking Ships also originated from Wragby. So let's go walking and check it all out. We start right in the centre of Wragby in the marketplace. It's the ideal location for parking because it has a massive triangular shaped car park. Wragby no longer has a market nowadays. It used to though, and it was held on a Thursday. Wragby also once had 2 fairs, one held on May Day and the other in late September. These days the centre has a broad selection of shops and a couple of pubs. Straight ahead of us here is one of them. That's the Turner Arms Hotel. It's named after the Turner family, who were squires of the Panton estate, which included Wragby. The pub is a 19th century former coaching inn. Over the road is Turner Square. These are a group of 10 almshouses built for 12 Wragby widows. They were founded by Sir Edward Turner in 1695 and rebuilt in 1840. There was also once a chapel. At the roundabout shortly after is the Adam and Eve. For a long time this was closed and was slated for demolition, but now it's been reborn as a family restaurant. Okay, so we've been up to the roundabout and I've turned around and now we're on the other side of the road. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to go and explore what's on this side of the marketplace. My left, your right as you look at it. So we're going to go behind the turner arms, up this street here, and then form a loop back onto this road. Victoria Street leads north to Halton-cum-Beckering. It's got some interesting buildings too, including the one you've just seen and this terraced row. We can form a loop back towards the centre by using a footpath which cuts through some residential areas. This is Hansard's Drive off Queen Elizabeth Street. It leads via some newer builds to the equally modern Wragby Surgery. This can be found on Old Grammar School Way. Wragby's Grammar School was founded in 1635 and rebuilt in 1775. Both buildings are now in residential use, and one of them can be seen down this drive close by. Next, it's Louth Road, the A157, and here is an unusual shop. This is Forest Lodge Guns, a family business established in 1987 which deals with all aspects of shooting. Outside the shop is one of the local bus stops. This one is for the number 50, which connects Lincoln to Louth via the A157. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that bus stop said it was the Town Hall bus stop, and as if by magic, here it is, literally next door, Wragby Town Hall. There we go. Wragby Town Hall's official name is Wragby Village Hall, which adds a bit of fuel to the is it a town or a village debate. I say it doesn't matter. The hall is still used for a variety of social events, including an annual summer fete, which is held on this big park directly behind it. This is Wragby Park, and we can walk through this to get to Silver Street. From here you can also see a school. This is Wragby Primary, which is the only school in the parish. Also in this little complex there's a swimming pool. This can be used for just £4 or a bit cheaper if you're a member. It caters for disabled users, elders and babies, so its water temperature is higher than most public pools, sitting between 29 and 30 degrees. Following the path we emerge onto Silver Street alongside the local police station, and next door to this there's a small telephone exchange. You'll notice too that the sun was now starting to shine, but it didn't last for long. How I'd have loved to have been in that pool at this point. It's quite handy, that little footpath, actually. I didn't know that existed because it's not marked on the maps that I use. So yeah, that's saved me a bit of time. It's cut an entire corner off, which I think is otherwise residential. Once at the end of that path, if you take a right turn, you're then heading this way towards Wragby's old railway station. Let's go and find that. Now we're back to the A158 and we're heading east. On the corner close to where the road meets Silver Street is a small industrial area. A bit further up the road is Wragby's former railway station, which was on the Louth to Bardney line. The last time we encountered this old line was way back in the Apley episode in West Lindsey. The station opened in 1874, closed to passengers in 1951 and then closed fully in 1960. The station building, which still retains its platform, remains as a private residence. The old British Railway sign can still be seen on the side of the building. As for the line, that's been built over by houses and road alignments. It was mostly single track, but here in Wragby there was a loop to allow trains to pass one another. There was also a signal box and a yard with 3 long sidings that served a cattle dock. Directly opposite the station is a housing estate, so let's wander across there and explore that next. I don't think there's a lot to say about this area, if I'm totally honest with you. It's an estate full of newish properties. We won't say they're brand spanking new because they're not. They've definitely been here a few years, but as you can see, they're newer than Wragby's oldest bit. Absolutely they are. So I'm just going to traverse my way through this estate and I'll meet you at the other end. housing estate we've just walked through was built over the old railway line, although no trace of it remains now. Let's head back the other way along Horncastle Road. Where it becomes Church Street, you'll find Wragby's Methodist Church. This one, typical of the Edwardian period, was built in 1894. It stands on the site of its predecessor, a Wesleyan chapel which dated from 1909. It consists of two buildings, primarily the chapel itself on the right and then a school building seen here on the left. As you head back towards the centre, you then pass the church. Dedicated to All Saints, this is a modern building only predating the chapel by a few years. It was built in 1839 by W.A. Nicholson. It's rare as churches go because, unlike the vast majority, All Saints does not face east. There was a much older church in Wragby and it stood around 440 yards away from this current one. It was demolished due to issues with subsidence. Well, despite the board being outside, the church is actually closed because, as you can see, it is, well, you probably can't see actually, it's down here, it's locked. So I can't get into the church to show you inside that, unfortunately. What I can show you, though, is Wragby Sports Centre, which is right next door. There it is, that's Wragby Sports Centre. So we're going to turn around at this point, we're going to go past the Sports Centre and then take a right turn because we're heading towards some earthworks. The Wragby Sports Centre, or the Reload Centre, is primarily for the local youth. It hosts annually the National Boys and Girls Table Tennis Tournament. Heading back now towards the station, we take a right turn along Cemetery Road. Where the two roads meet is Sweeney's Barbershop. Cemetery Road lives up to its name because at the end there's a decent sized one. This whole area is arguably the most historically important anywhere in Wragby. Next to the cemetery, there's some earthworks. Known locally as the Moats or the Rout Yard, this is the site of medieval Wragby. It's a scheduled monument formed of two moated islands and ditched enclosures. It's the remains of a medieval manorial complex. The Domesday Book records two manors in Wragby, one owned by Erinys of Buron and the other by Waldin the Artificer. The surviving remains here possibly represent the Buron Manor, which held responsibility for a church. Okay, so there are plenty of footpaths around this area, but I'm really only interested in the one I'm currently stood on, because this one will take us towards Wragby's Windmill. Now, it doesn't have any sails, but the tower definitely still stands, and it's definitely one of Wragby's most iconic landmarks. The footpath leads to Millview Road, and that's an appropriate name. You can see the windmill poking its sailless head out from above these houses. At the end of Millview Road is a derelict building. This used to be a garage which sold fuel as well as doing repairs. It was owned by J.B. Johnson and Sons. As you approach the mill, you appreciate just how tall it actually is. Grade 2 listed, this was built in 1831 by the millwright Ingledew. It was originally powered by 6 sails until in 1903 an oil engine took over. It had 4 pairs of millstones which were used to grind corn. Some of the internal mill workings are still in place, including the upper stone spindle glut box bearings and part of the sack hoist, which once used an endless chain. In front of it now there's a small country store. Interestingly too, OS maps from the 1880s show there was once a second windmill in Wragby. It was located off Victoria Street, but by 1906 it had disappeared. Okay, opposite the mill there's an area of brand new housing. This has been up about, I don't know, about 15 years, something like that. It was here when I moved away from Lincolnshire, but it was still under construction. But it's definitely been finished now. We can walk through this estate and it will take us back onto the A158. I'm showing my age a little bit by telling you I can remember these houses being built. I'm not old enough though to remember what was here before. As well as new housing, Millbrook Drive off the A158 has some modern commercial properties, which include this accountancy firm, Socius. Wragby's library and its brand new fire station are also down here, the latter of which used to occupy a tiny building on Bardney Road. That's now been converted into a residence. Also at this western end is a football ground. Wragby Football Club play here. They're members of the Lincoln and District Sunday League and they play in black and white halved shirts. Now, the original plan here was to walk across this pitch to a footpath which links it to the adjoining housing estate, but that idea quickly went south because these gates were locked. No matter, plan B was to use another opening off the A158. This, again, is a modern built-up area, pretty much the story of Wragby's western end. So if I'd been able to walk across that playing field, this is sort of how my route would have gone. The playing field is behind these houses here. I would have walked up to the top where there's an opening at the top. If the gate is open, I would have come down this footpath here and onto Sawmill Lane, which is where I am now. So effectively I've just cut a little piece off, but not really my fault. I didn't know that that wasn't public access. Sometimes you don't with playing fields, sometimes they're locked up and other times you can get onto them no problem, and in this case it was the former of those two things. Anyway, I'm back on the route and this will take me back to the A158 once again, Lincoln Road, and that will take us back into the marketplace and we're almost done. Lincoln Road is the location of the local co-op store. This was opened in 2015, replacing an old store in the marketplace. It cost £1.5 million to build. On its wall we've got the parish notice board, so before we leave Wragby behind, I'm leaving a card. East Lindsey still has the small matter of 181 still to visit. A right turn shortly after and we're back on Bardney Road. This shop you can see, by the way, is Wragby Butchers, but it's known to the locals as Wizzy apparently. Next door is a Premier store. I reckon this used to be a pub because it's got all the hallmarks of one. Mind you, if it's a pub you're after along here, there is still one, and that would be the Ivy, which dates back to the 17th century. That makes it one of the oldest buildings in Wragby. Sandwiched between them both is the Corn Dolly Café, whose name is a nod to the local corn trade. Lastly, we have the Box of Frogs. This is a curio, antique, retro and vintage shop, which opened in 2022. And we're back to the beginning here in the marketplace, and after walking around that and having to deal with the rain, I think it's time for a pint. Off we go then, across to the Ivy, or at least I am. I've got a special section for you guys while I'm in there, and that's all to do with Wragby Maze. If you drive down Bardney Road towards Goltho, you'll pass Wragby Maze and Conifer Centre on the right hand side. This is a little bit like York Maze, only much smaller. It's a family attraction, popular with children, and it features primarily a maze. It's made of large conifer hedges which discourage any kind of cheating. There isn't just the maze though. The centre also has 3 9-hole putting greens, clock golf, 2 croquet lawns, and a turf maze for kids to run around on. They also have some family games which can be played for a small fee. One of them is an oversized chessboard. In all, it's a lovely place to make a day of it. You can even take a picnic too, because there are tables and chairs dotted around the site. You can also purchase sandwiches, snacks and drinks from the on-site shop. This place is what you make it. If you come just for the maze, it's likely to be a relatively short visit, but you can also spend a good length of time here and check it all out. And that's it, folks. Time to hit the road. Although, take it from me, if you drive through here, you do seem to spend a long time sat at these traffic lights in the marketplace. They did eventually change though, and I was on my way. There'll be more East Lindsey coming next year, but I'll be completing West Lindsey first. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.